Hey guys, so this is chapter 1's project, and in this video we're going to be looking specifically at how can you start making your piecewise function as well as part A of this project. Now, what you'll need to be completing for your homework, or not your homework check, your project checkpoint to add to the discussion board is you're going to need to show me your progress for showing me your piecewise function and part A. And so what you can do is either take a screenshot of your creation, or you can send me a link to either if you've created a Google Doc or a Google slide. So I'll show you guys that later, but to get started here, I'm gonna first start us off with creating a piecewise function. Now for me, since I'm recording this, I'm gonna be using Desmos to show you how I get my piecewise function as I'm like trying to create it. And also I'm gonna be creating my project using a Google slide. I think that will be the easiest to start out making your projects. So first you're gonna type into the Google search engine, Desmos, and usually you'll find graphing calculator. You'll click on that. And when you get to Desmos, I highly recommend that you create an account, because if you don't, it might not save your equation. So I find that if you create an account, you're easily able to save your equation. Like I'm gonna call this and title it as chapter 1 project and hit save. So that way it's saving as I go. And so I'm gonna start by actually making my linear function first. I just find making that my linear function is a little bit easier. And so in this case, my first function will be a linear function. So I'll write in 2x minus 2, something really easy. So I have a slope of 2 and it hits it at -2. And I have to use these bounds. So since this one was my first one, I'm gonna choose this bound here. And to create bounds, you're gonna use braces. And it's a -2, x is between -2, and to make that inequality sign with that equal sign underneath, you need to type in that inequality that's less than and put an equal sign. So if you use your keyboard and you hit shift to get your less than sign, let me do that again. So your less than sign and then hit the equal sign, this should appear. And then you're gonna type in x, and then again, one more time, equal sign, and then put in the +2 and close the braces. And there we have our linear equation, but notice it's been cut off because it's only from -2 to +2. So from here to here. Now, I'm gonna type in my second equation, but remember, it needs to be a quadratic equation. So it needs to be like x squared. And this is the part where it gets a little tricky. So what I do know is that I have to use these bounds here. So I'm gonna go ahead and type in those bounds already, just so that I have that. So it's from 2 less than x less than or equal to 5, and close that brace. And then I'm gonna type in my equation, so that way as I'm typing, it starts to make the picture. So let's see here. I noticed that this here, if I want it to connect to a parabola, like I imagine that a parabola would like be shooting upwards, that you would be shooting upwards. So I want to make that my vertex. I think that would be the easiest way to go. If I want a vertex right here, notice that this is a horizontal shift to 2. So if I remember correctly, if I ever want to create a parabola, I can write x -2 because that would be a right-hand shift. And notice that I just made a parabola that did a right-hand shift. It shifted 2 spaces. But I need to shift up to connect to that because we want a continuous piecewise function. So if I want to connect these 2 pieces, I need this to shift up. So remember, we're going to go outside of the parabola, the x -2 squared, and put a +2 to make it go up. And there we have our equation. And so once we have our equation here, these 2 are going to be my function. So what I'm going to do here is screenshot that. So Command Shift 4, and I'm just going to screenshot these 2 equations so that I have them. And so notice that when I screenshot, it appears on my desktop. And I'm also going to screenshot this equation here, but I'm going to try to zoom out so that I have the entire screenshot, because I want to know where the endpoints are. Notice that this endpoint is at -2, and I can tell that the lowest point here is -6. And I can also tell that the furthest point out is 5 and the highest point out is 11. You want to make sure you have all of the lines or the curves of the piecewise function inside your picture or your screenshot. So again, I just hit Command-Shift-4. And so now what I'm going to do is pull up a Google slide. So I've already started typing out my Google slide. As you can see, the title page. This will just be an example. And I'm going to put my piecewise function here. So I'm going to hit Image, Upload, and I'm going to upload my image here. You don't have to do it the same way I do, but I'm just going to put my piecewise function like this. That way I can see that you have the first function and its interval notation, and the second function and its interval notation. So that's all I really want to see. Some people will type it out in this really nice format, but that's really hard to do in a Google slide, so I'm okay with just showing me what your piecewise function is, like this. Now for your second part here, for part A, as you can see, we're going to need to make a table. And when you make your table, I should have wrote this in the rubric, but when you make your table, put at least 3 points, and I'll show you why you need at least 3 points. So I'm going to insert a table. I think that should be enough. And I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit and make it a little bit skinnier and easier to read. So I'm going to put an X and a Y. I don't like this box in the way, so I'm going to scoot this over. There we go. And so here, maybe I'll make this line up a little bit better. Get in the middle. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is insert my graph into here. So if I go back, there's my screenshot. So I'm grabbing it from my desktop and grabbing that screenshot and hitting open. And there it is. You can shrink it down if that makes it a little bit easier to see in your slides. There we go. And so once you have a nice picture, what you're gonna do is look at the graph, and I want you to find at least 3 points. One of the points should be the furthest point to the left, which in this case, the furthest point to the left should have been that -2x, okay? So -2 should have been your furthest point out, so everyone should be the same here. And then tell me what your y value is, and this is the point where it's a little bit different for everyone. So for me, it's at -6. And then you're gonna find the point that where these functions connect. So this linear function and quadratic connect right there at x equals 2, +2, and the y value there looks like at +2 as well. So I'll type that in. The furthest x value out is at x equals 5, and that y value there is 11. So I'm going to type that in. And there we go, we have a table. Now you can put in more points here, like you could have chose x equals 1 and told me, or x equals -1 and told me that y value, but you didn't have to. The more points you have, the more accurate your picture is if you're doing this by hand. But in this case, since I'm not doing this by hand, I don't really need this picture to look accurate because the computer already does it. Desmos already creates the image for me. Now, once you have your image and once you have your table, notice that it will also ask you to state the domain and range, which is why I ask you to make the table. So that way you can find out what is your domain. Your domain tells you what is the furthest x value, or all the x values that are present. So notice that the x values here stretch all the way to -2 and stretch all the way to +5 continuously. So I'm going to need a brackets because it actually touches it at -2, and a bracket on the 5 here because it actually touches it at +5. And for the range, the lowest y value is at -6 and the highest y value is at 11. Notice that also helps me when I make that table because I have already noticed that my lowest y value was 6 and my highest was 11. So again, I'm going to use braces because it actually touches there. So 6 and 11. And there we go. That is part A of this video. So to show me this for the checkpoint, all you have to do is hit share. And then I would recommend you change this to maybe you can change it to Norman Public School, or anyone with this link is the easiest so that it's viewed publicly. And so once you have it in public setting or anyone can view it, you're going to hit copy link. And now I'm going to go into modules, and I'm going to the discussion board. And the discussion board is due Friday. And I'm going to hit reply and then post my link. Now, if you didn't do a Google slide or a Google Doc, what you can do is take a picture, like maybe you're creating your poster board. You can take a picture of that and then upload it as an image. Remember, you'll press this button to upload an image. And then you'll just hit post reply. And that's it, guys. Hopefully this helps you with part A of your project and starting it. If you have any questions, let me know in class.